today we want to talk about how to live rich, not in the sense of finances only, but a rich life, like a well-being, wholesome, abundant life, and also how we can live lives with security. Be people that are secure, that are confident, because security oozes out of you because you're so centered and you're so secure as a human being. That's connected, by the way. Being secure and living an abundant life, it's connected. I was just reading an article about Gen Z. The millennials are done. I mean, the millennials are they're old news now. They're old people. The next generation that comes after the millennials is Gen Z, which is college and under. People that grew up from, I guess 1999, I believe, and below. And one of the biggest issues that Gen Zs have is insecurity. I mean, everybody struggles with insecurity, but Gen Zs really struggle with insecurity because they were born at a time where the world was constantly talking about war, where there was a lot of injustice, violence, and shootings in schools and things. They grew up in that kind of generation, so a lot of them grew up with insecurity. Insecurity is a big thing that they deal with. And we have a lot of young people here. You are considered Gen Z, so you don't seem insecure to me, but maybe you are. I'm not sure. I'm just kidding. But that's what they struggle with a lot because of the environment they grew up in. The America they grew up in was not secure for them. It wasn't a strong America for them, so they grew up insecure. And today we want to see how, as Christians, because more than ever, our country needs people that are secure and needs people that know how to live rich lives, abundant lives, so we can help others do the same. And the only way to do that according to Scripture, the only way to do that according to Proverbs, is through wisdom. Wisdom alone will make you and me the type of people that will know how to live a rich life, an abundant life, and that will know how to live as secure Christians. Be secure inside. The last sermon on wisdom that we talked about, we talked about how it's very difficult to find wisdom. It's very difficult to find wisdom. This is why wisdom is valuable, because it's very difficult to find. Just like it's difficult to find diamonds and gold and these precious stones. They're precious because they're difficult to find. But wisdom is more difficult to find. Is more precious than these things, and it's difficult to find. Yes, it's a challenge to find. But perhaps a greater challenge is to keep wisdom once we find it. Is to not lose sight of wisdom once we find it, because that's what we need. It's not enough just to find it. We must keep it, not lose sight of it, if we want to really see all the benefits that wisdom brings. And today's passage is about a rich, abundant life and being secure inside. That will only happen if we don't lose sight of wisdom. But that's a huge challenge, because it's never easy to just maintain and keep something for a long period of time, right? I watched the show the Shark Tank. Does anybody watch Shark Tank here? Yeah, Winnie knows what I'm talking about. Winnie has good sense of entertainment, good shows to watch. And Shark Tank basically is about billionaires and millionaires that are famous people that are sitting there, And young people that are trying to start businesses, they come in and they present their ideas. And if their ideas are good, a shark will give them the money, the resources that they need to grow their business. It's really, really fun, entertaining, family friendly, and you learn a lot. So I love watching it. And it's very difficult to go into that show. It's very difficult to go into the shows on Channel 7 Sunday nights at 9 p.m. But it's very difficult to go into the show. Some people, they have to try for 3-4 years just to get an opportunity to go on the show. But they try, and after many, many years, they finally, get an invitation to come, and they go. Okay, that alone is hard. To even get to the show is hard. But once you get to the show, now you have to get the sharks to buy into what you're selling, and you have to get one of the sharks to join you. So that's another huge challenge. You wait 4 years, and you get 5 minutes to convince them that what you're selling is good, and they should invest in you. Okay, that's another challenge. But the biggest challenge of them all always comes for them once they get the deal. Once they get the deal, that's when things really, really get hard for them. They made another show called Beyond the Tank, right? Where they show what happens to the people that get deals with the sharks, right? And every person that they show that they got a deal with the shark, after they get the deal, they struggle. All of them struggle, so the shark comes to them, and the shark starts rebuking them. The sharks are tough. That's why they're sharks, right? They start, challenging them, and they start to, because they want their money back. They invested money, so they want their money back. So they start to do whatever they can to get these young businessmen and women to, get back on track and become successful fast, because that's what the sharks were expecting. So the biggest challenge always comes after they get the deal. After they get the deal, for some reason they struggle. And they need somebody to help them to get back on track and find success. It's kind of like that. The message for us today is kind of like that. It's hard to find wisdom, but perhaps it's harder to maintain and keep wisdom. Not lose sight of wisdom. And today we're going to see from Scripture, from Proverbs 3, chapter 3, verses 21 through 24, why it is so crucial for us to not lose sight of wisdom. Okay, so if you have your Bibles, please open with me to Proverbs chapter 3, verses 21 through 24. Proverbs chapter 3, verses 21 through 34. This is what the Word of God says. My son, do not lose sight of these. Keep sound wisdom and discretion, and there will be life for your soul and adornment for your neck. Then you will walk on your way securely, and your foot will not stumble. If you lie down, you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. Do not be afraid of sudden terror or of the ruin of the wicked when it comes. For the Lord will be your confidence and will keep your foot from being caught. Here, the author is saying, it seems like it's the father telling the son. The entire chapter 3, it can be seen as the father teaching wisdom to the son, hoping that by the end of the chapter, the son will become somebody of wisdom, will gain interest in wisdom, will be somebody that continues to grow in wisdom, so he doesn't need the father anymore. He can live wisely on his own. That's kind of like the picture behind this chapter. So the father is telling the son, now that you found wisdom, when you find wisdom, don't lose sight of these. Keep sound wisdom and discretion. Okay, those are synonyms to wisdom. So he's saying, when you find wisdom, keep wisdom. Sound wisdom can also be translated resourceful. It's saying when you find wisdom and when you keep it, you become somebody resourceful. Not only resourceful, but somebody that has discretion. Resourceful and discretion, both of them are talking about the inner human being. The inner human being. So what this passage, sound wisdom, being resourceful is talking about somebody who's so big on the inside, who because of their growth in wisdom, because they never lost sight of wisdom, because they continue to grow in wisdom, they have become big on the inside. They have enough resources inside to be able to handle life, to be able to withstand anything life throws at them and not be moved by it. They have resources. Their resourceful wisdom has made them big on the inside. Discretion is similar. It's talking about somebody who always thinks and plans on the inside, who has their own, thoughts well thought out, that whenever life hits, they know exactly what to do because they've been preparing for that internally. So if you combine both, what this is saying is if you don't lose wisdom, then you become big on the inside. You become big on the inside as a human being. Your inner person grows. You become big on the inside, and this is important because the only way to really enjoy life, like it says there, right? Your life, there will be life for your soul. Like you will really live. You will be really alive. You will really be full of life. And there will be a adornment for your neck, meaning your life is going to look good. Like what do you adorn your neck with? With something that looks good, right? It's saying the way life will unfold for you and me, if we have wisdom, is it's going to be full of life. You're going to be fully alive, and it's going to look good. It's going to look good. Your life, everybody wants a good life. Everybody wants our lives to unfold in such a beautiful way. Well, that's what you're going to get if you become big on the inside. You can only become big on the inside if you have not lost sight of wisdom and if you have been growing in wisdom. That's the only way you and I become big on the inside. And think about it. Just think about this. What are the kind of people that we all want in life? If you're an employee, do you know who you want? You want a boss that has a big heart, right? You want to work for someone that has a big heart, that makes you feel secure and safe, and that you know that they care for you because they're big on the inside. They're not threatened by you. They can overlook your sins and your weaknesses, and they can help you grow. Everybody wants a boss like that because they're big on the inside. They're attractive. They're adornment to your neck. They become attractive because they're big on the inside. When it comes to husband and wife, what kind of husband and wife do you want? We want somebody, that's forgiving and kind and gentle, understanding, loving, forgiving, never talking back. You guys are laughing too loud there. No comments from me. But why do we want spouses like that? Because they're big on the inside. We're looking for husbands and wives that are big on the inside. Because it is so attractive. Because it is so attractive. Because it feels like just if we're with them, life will be all right. And that's what this is saying. Wisdom makes you that kind of person. If you continue to grow your inner being as a human being, if you don't only focus on growing your skills outside, but if you grow internally, you become big on the inside and you become full of life, you become attractive. And once you become attractive, guess what happens when that happens? Everybody wants you. Doors start to open for opportunities when it comes to career, when it comes to dating, when it comes to getting married. Everybody wants you. Everybody can't really pinpoint, what exactly to say when they see somebody who's big on the inside, but everybody can feel when somebody like that's in the room, and everybody is immediately drawn and attracted to people like that. And then you get opportunities that you never thought you would have. I like watching basketball, and right now the most successful basketball team in the NBA, National Basketball Association, is the Golden State Warriors. As many of you know, for the past 3 years, and Will and Josephine love basketball. We watch basketball together. They know all the stats and everything, especially Josephine. Like, wow, I'm amazed. You know so much about basketball. But, for the past 3-4 years, they've been the champs. They've been the most successful team. But they weren't always successful. There was a time when they were massively failing. And during that time, there's one major move that they made that contributed to them being so successful now. You know what that was? They hired Steve Kerr, the current coach. And then there was a documentary about why they hired him and things like that. Do you know why they hired Steve Kerr, even though there were so many other coaches available? The Golden State Warriors were only looking for one thing. Only one thing to hire somebody to coach at the highest level. You know what it was? The reason why they hired him was because they heard that he can get along with people. That's the only reason they hired him. Of course, he's experienced and everything as a coach, but the major thing they looked at was, can he get along with other people as a coach? They heard that he's good with people, he can get along with people, he was hired. Because they knew that they needed somebody that at least portrayed to be big on the inside. Somebody that can get along with people, somebody that won't get easily hurt, somebody that has thick skin and a soft heart, somebody that won't be fighting everybody. They needed somebody of character if they wanted success. Because the previous coach wasn't like that. The previous coach was fighting everybody. So when they were hiring this time, they needed somebody big. That's the only reason why he got that job. And they were right. He was good with people. And look what happened. Major success. That's what people look for. That's what the world looks for. That's what everybody looks for. And that's how, whether you realize it or not, that's how you become more and more attractive as a human being. You become more beautiful outside when you're becoming more beautiful inside. You can be all you want, beautiful outside, but if you're not beautiful on the inside, you're going to start stinking at some point. It's like not taking a shower for 10 days, but putting on the most expensive clothes and the most expensive perfume. After half an hour, everybody will know how bad you smell. Even though you're adorning yourself outside as best as you can, it's going to show. You're going to stink at some point or another. In the same way, if you are beautiful on the inside and you're cultivating more beauty on the inside because you don't lose sight of wisdom and you're continuing to grow in wisdom and you continue to do that over time, and what you're going to see is your inner beauty, your inner growth it starts to show on the outside. You can't stop that. You can't stop it. Everybody sees it. Everybody wants it. You become very attractive. Growing up in the Korean community, my whole life pretty much, one of the things that I see, it used to be only in Korea, but now it's contaminated the United States too, especially Irvine. One of the things that I see is these moms, they have kids that are young, very young, but at a very young age they train them as if they're in the military, in the army. These kids, they go out from their house at 8 a.m., they come back at 8 p.m. You know why? They go to school, they go to martial arts academy, they go to SATs, they go to math class, they go to they go to piano lessons, they go to so many things that are helping them grow skills, and the parents are hoping will give them an edge, an advantage over everybody else, and they will stand out. They're spending thousands of dollars on poor kids that don't have a life. 8 to 8, that's illegal. That should be illegal. That's not ethical, I don't think. But these Korean parents, they're contaminating Irvine and Fullerton and all these rich cities, and people are making businesses out of these parents. And they're just sending their kids wherever they can send them, teach them golf and whatever possible. They've been trying to live the lives they couldn't live through their kids, and making them miserable at the same time. But one thing they don't know is, I wish they knew, is that they can try all they can to equip them outside with skills and talents and knowledge and whatever it may be. But if they're not growing inside, if they're not becoming bigger on the inside, at some point, even if they make it to the top of the top, at some point they're going to massively, massively fail. Because they won't be able to handle such success. They won't be able to handle such life. Because that kind of life can only be handled for those who have been growing the inside. It's always inside out. Inner beauty becomes outer beauty. Outer beauty itself is only superficial and temporary. So in order to live rich lives, attractive lives, Proverbs today, the author is saying, you and I need to focus on growing inside, internally. And that's what's going to lead you and me to live the kind of lives that we want to live. Not only growing on the inside would lead us to live rich and attractive lives, it'll also lead us to live secure lives. Now, before I go there though, let me just say one more thing. Everybody knows, not everybody knows, but this, what I just said about us needing to not lose sight of wisdom so we can live this kind of life, in some ways, everybody knows that we should live like this. But the reason why it's so hard is because very few people actually live this way. As human beings, naturally, we don't intentionally try to grow every day. As human beings, naturally, we don't try to better ourselves. We try to just reach a certain level and coast. And just try to live comfortably. And that's why not many will get to enjoy this, because although we know it in our heads, we don't really live it out. We have this thing called destination disease, where once we arrive at some point, we just stop growing, we just stop intentionally growing in wisdom, and we just coast through life. That's the equal of just being dead at the same time. That's the moment that we die. I mean, think about it, right? All of these companies that were successful in the past, they're dead now. For example, Blockbuster. Who was alive when Blockbuster was still around? Blockbuster was where you rented videos in the past. Massive success, massive success. But when they were small, they tried everything that they could to grow. They were risky, they were innovative, they risked money and everything that they could, and they finally became successful. But what happened once they became successful? They just stopped. They were just satisfied. They just started coasting. They didn't think about future threat. They didn't think about, okay, 5, 10 years from now, how are things going to change? How are we going to keep our business going? They just started coasting. And what happened when they started coasting? Amazon came by. And they completely destroyed their business model and their business. Nobody was renting from stores anymore. Everything started to go digital. Netflix, Amazon came. But because they were coasting, while others were working so hard to make Amazon and Netflix, they were not able to continue on. Once they reached a point, they just comfortably coasted and they disappeared. Borders, same thing. You know, I don't know if anybody knows Borders. They're kind of like Barnes and Nobles, right? They were a big, bookstore. And, they became successful, they grew, and what did they do? They just started coasting. The Amazon came and they shut down. While Barnes & Noble's having the same threat, they somehow find a way to keep going. They didn't coast, they kept on growing, they kept on finding ways. Kmart, same thing, right? Successful, and once it becomes successful, they start coasting, and then Walmart takes over. And basically, that's what happens to us at a personal level too. As human beings, at some point, we just stop continuing to grow in wisdom, and we just start coasting, and that's when we start to decline and ultimately die. And that's what our passage today is showing us, that the only way to keep on growing, the only way to really continue to live a rich life, the only way to just continue to become more and more attractive is by not stopping. By not stopping. We need to keep on intentionally grow in wisdom if we want our lives to turn out the way that we want them to. Now, let me say something here. When you look at this passage, wisdom is basically connected to God. Right? We've kind of talked about this in the previous passages, but without God, there is no wisdom. Right? Without God, there is no wisdom. Because God is wisdom. Because God is the source of wisdom. Wisdom must come from somewhere. God himself is the one who gives wisdom. This is why the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. The only way to get to know wisdom is to get to know God. Right? So what this is showing is, when we stop searching for wisdom, it's also showing us that we stop searching for God. Okay, it's showing us that we stop searching for God. When we start coasting in life, whether that's a business, whether that's personal, whether that's a church, whether that's a Christian, if we stop continuing to invest in a relationship if we stop growing in our walk with God, then we don't grow in wisdom and we don't grow inside internally. If we just get busy in life and everything else takes priority over God, then over time the only wisdom we grow in is in wisdom of just self-wisdom. Wise in our own eyes. Wise in our own eyes. Not in the eyes of God. Not in the wisdom that God gives, but we only grow wise in our own eyes. And that's what leads us to become small people. Small people. The farther away we get from God, the smaller we get. The smaller we get, the more we break things, the more we break relationships, the more violence we cause, the more problems we cause, the more unattractive life becomes. This is why, if I could ever get a chance to talk to these parents, Korean parents in Irvine and Fullerton, I want to tell them, do you want your children to have a good life? Do you want them to really live an abundant life? then you should focus on their walk with God. You spend so much money and time as Christian parents to equip your kid to become the next big thing. And you don't even take them to church on Fridays when they have Bible study, or Sundays, and they miss church so easily because of any event that will make them more successful in your minds, and God always takes a backseat. At some point, you're going to pay for that. At some point, you're going to pay for that. At some point, you're going to see your child's life break down because you equipped them with all the wrong things. Not wrong things, they're good, but you didn't equip them with the most important thing. Their walk with God. Their walk with God. Look at it from a nation's perspective. We used to be a Christian nation. We used to be a godly nation. The United States of America was the land of God at one point. Remember back those days, 10, 20 years, when we were doing so good, when everybody from Korea, from China, why do we all come here? It was a promised land, right? It was the best, most powerful, richest, most abundant country in the world, where they would share anything. They would give out green cards and citizenship. But at the same time, they were the nation that was closest to God. And the nation was abundant, and everybody talked so well about this country. Fast forward to today. We have drifted from God so much as a nation. We have separated ourselves from God so much from the nation. And guess what we find? Guess what's ruling America right now? Individualism. Individualism. We have become so small that we only become about ourselves now. Life is about me, my happiness, and my success. Can't get smaller than that. Can't get smaller than that. You see, the farther we get from God, the smaller we get. Life becomes just about, we're the most individualistic nation in the world. And you know what also comes with individualism? Because it's just about me. We break all and hurt all kinds of relationships. If it doesn't benefit me, we just hurt everybody else. And our country hasn't been this violent, this broken, this divided. I can't remember a time when we've been like this as a country. You see, the more we drift from God, this is what we find. We find smallness, just about me. We find destruction. We find violence. We find division. We find not an abundant life. Whether that's at a personal level or as a country, that's what happens. When we focus on all other things and we let go of the most important thing, the thing that's making us beautiful, the thing that's making us big on the inside, our walk with God. This is why without God there is no wisdom. This is why without God we cannot have wisdom. This is why without God, the only path we can go down is maybe very skilled and very good at a lot of things, but the smallest path possible that eventually will lead to a lonely life where it will be just about you in the end and nobody else. Because when it's just about me, we hurt everybody else and everybody disappears from my life and the only one left is me. Because I only love me. That's what we're doing to our children. That's what we're doing to ourselves when we're telling them, hey, it's okay that, you don't go to that Bible study. Hey, it's okay that, you go do other stuff. You don't need to go to church today. Hey, we don't need to have family worship tonight. We don't need to read the Bible together. We don't need to pray together. We don't need any. The moment we start doing that and we focus on all other things, we're setting them up and ourselves for destruction at some point. At some point. This is why this generation is so insecure. Gen Zs. Because they're far from God. This is the generation where the least amount of Americans will go to church. It's dragged from millennials to Gen Zs. Millennials still had a sense of faith that God is important in my life. Gen Zs totally dropped. God is not important to them at all. That's the nation we'll be facing. We're facing more and more moving forward. And they're insecure. And they're insecure. You can only be secure if you have resources inside of you. You can only be secure if you are big on the inside, if you have something to give. You can only live big if you are big. You can only be big with God as you grow in wisdom that He teaches you. The reason why people, that have a relationship with God will not only grow in wisdom, but they will live, there it says, you walk, verse 23, then you will walk on your way securely and your foot will not stumble. If you lie down, you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. Right? That's security. That's security. You're not scared. You're not scared. You're not scared of life. Life is secure. You're walking on a way securely. Your foot will not stumble. The path of life will be clear for the one that seeks wisdom, for the one that is after wisdom. The path of life for those who have not lost sight of wisdom will be clear, will be secure. They will sleep well at night. This is talking about security because just knowing God alone and what, He teaches from Scripture, just knowing His ways alone will lead you and me to a smooth path. That alone, that if you and I just focus on learning how to live according to the ways of God, that alone will lead you and me to a smooth path. It will lead you and me to love. It will lead you and me to be good with relationships. It will lead you and me to know how to do life as a married couple. It will lead you and me to know how to do life as a family in society. It will not break. Life will not break, but life will be smooth because we will do according to what God says we should live. Because everything He says is to give us a life of abundancy. He knows how life should be lived because He created life. He knows how life should be lived. So if we listen to Him, we will live. We will have the life that we're seeking. Not only that, this is a world that God created. Right? We as Christians believe God created this world. The world, the universe, God created it. Now, if you and I want to live in the world that God created, we better know Him. We better know His ways. Because we're living in His world, and the only way to live a good life in His world is by knowing Him. We can't live against Him and hope to do well in life. We're going against the fabric of creation. Creation will not allow it. It's like inviting a terrorist to the States, to the United States of America. It's like a terrorist coming to live here. If he lives as a terrorist here, he will last 1 week before he gets killed. The environment will not allow it. He cannot live as a terrorist in a country that's not a terrorist country. In the world that God created, we cannot live the lives that we hope to live if we go against Him. Or if we don't know Him. Or if we forget Him. Or if we lose sight of Him. It just doesn't work. This is why wisdom and God is so connected to each other. If we want a secure path, that we will not stumble, a smooth path, a smooth road, a good life. If we want to have, the kind of peace that will allow us to sleep at night, then we need God. We need God. You know why this is talking about sleep? Because there's so many people that can't sleep at night. Starting with my own dad. My dad can't sleep at night. He at best sleeps 3-4 hours a day. Do you know why? He doesn't know God that well. Praying for him every single day. But you know what happens because he doesn't know God? He takes all the problems and worries of the world to himself. And the moment he hits the bed at night, he's bombarded with anxiety and fear and all kinds of problems that he needs to face that will not let him sleep. Sleep will not be sweet for one who doesn't know that God is in control. Sleep will not be sweet for one who doesn't know that we can trust in God when life becomes impossible for us. Sleep will not be sweet for the one who doesn't know that there is one who is big, almighty, and in control and powerful, and we're not it. You see, the only way to really find peace and security, do you know how that's found? It's only found if you really believe that God so deeply loves you. He cares for you. He's already approved of you. He's involved in your life and all of your problems. And He alone has the answers and the solutions to all your problems. And your enemies and your threats, those things are not in power, but God is in power. He's in control. Do you see what a difference that would make in your life if you actually believe that God was that powerful, if you actually believe that God was that in control, if you actually believe that God was that loving, that He loved you that much? Do you see how, if you really believe that, how that would change your life? How you would really have good night's sleep? How no thoughts will be able to come into you. They will still be there, but they will not take control of your life. How it won't be anxiety and fear, but security and peace. That, hey, you know what? I tried everything that I could. God knows what I'm facing. And I already prayed to Him, so He's going to have the last say. So it's all right. We'll see what He does. You see how bold and secure and confident that makes you. That's wisdom. That's wisdom. To be able to see that we are not God, and there is a God that is that powerful. And that's what this passage is showing. The only way to really become big on the inside is by getting closer to God every single day. Your quiet times with Him are way more important than golf lessons or whatever you train, math class, college. Your time of prayer will pay way more dividends than the school you go to and the training you receive, or whatever you and I invest our money in. Only when we stay close to God will we grow in wisdom, which will help us to grow internally, which will transfer to wisdom being a shield to us. It's not just life and making us life, giving us life and making us attractive. It's a shield. Wisdom will make us so big because we will understand who God is, that it will protect us from any threat. And it will give us a good night's sleep. Um, the you know so I guess for all of us here, young and old, one thing that this passage is trying to show us is that all of us have to search our hearts. All of us have to search our hearts. And what you and I will find when we search deep inside our souls is that what we trust, what we love, what we are after in this life is not Jesus Christ. And the very same thing that's keeping us small and bringing all the problems into our lives, it's because He is not King of our lives. We have drifted, we have strayed. And the way that this passage is trying to show us, the wisdom that is trying, if you and I can see this, then you and I will be on the path of wisdom today. What this is trying to show us today, this passage is trying to show us is that the more we drift from Jesus, we will never find this life. And somehow, some way, perhaps all of us have drifted in some ways. And what this passage is calling us to do today is, if you really want this abundant life, if you really want to live life with security, and confidence, and peace, and rest, then you and I need to come back. We need to come back. When we start to do that, when we see that what we really need is Jesus, and what we left is Jesus, and when we see that we need to come back, then we will be on the path of wisdom. I wanted to read you a quote by Tim Keller. This is what he says. Jesus was the only one who trusted God with all of his heart, even when that meant going to the cross. But ultimately, that only led him to his darkest hour, excruciating pain, confusion, no guidance, and no guarantees. Jesus lost all support and direction in his darkest hour, and his life ended on a cross so that we who don't deserve it can always have Jesus steering the wheel of our lives. He will never abandon you. Look at Jesus. Look at what he has done, and to the degree you know, to that degree, you will be able to commit everything to him. Andy Stanley says this, and we'll end with this. Following Jesus will make your life better and better at life. Let's pray.